Well, it's
Sounds
great
good.
to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, you bet. So before we get into your work, I want to know this. 5.5 years ago or so, this pandemic was changing the world, changing all of us. How
Yeah.
did you get through that coronavirus era, and how has it changed the way that you approach life and work today?
Yeah, well, I had like a personal breakdown on top of COVID, and I think COVID kind of was a catalyst to that whole transformation. So and I don't know if you want me to go into like the whole backstory, but I
Sure.
think COVID was really for me, it was the catalyst to hit my emotional rock bottom, which was like such a horrible experience, but I wouldn't change it for anything because, I think some people have easy lives. And if you look at them, they like don't have a purpose or they're not motivated or like, going through hard things really builds your character. And I
Yeah.
would rather earn who I am today than have an easy life. So even though it was super difficult and even like the aftermath of COVID, I would argue, because as I was saying, I live in Hawaii and our restrictions here, I think, were worse than anywhere else in
Wow.
America. And that was really hard for me because I moved here as part of this effort to be free and like live this happy life and to not be able to go to the beach and like do these things that I wanted to do felt really restrictive and isolating.
Wow. And I find that weird because people talked about that in LA. And for me, since we're landlocked, I'm thinking if you're by a body of water and you're out in predominantly nature, why
Yeah.
have such restrictions? I mean, it seems like that's the place where there should be some freedom.
Well, and this is where there's like so many directions I can go.
Yeah.
There's two things about COVID. One, I'm very fortunate because COVID is how I learned how to surf because it's like the beaches were closed, the mountains were closed, everything was closed, but the state doesn't have jurisdiction over the ocean. So we were allowed to be in the ocean, and that's how I learned how to surf because it
Okay.
was really the only thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of person, I used to be the kind of person that if I wasn't immediately good at something, I would quit. Which I don't know if you've ever heard like a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset.
Yeah.
I used to totally have a fixed mindset and be a perfectionist and like I just wouldn't do anything if I wasn't good at it.
Yeah.
But with surfing, like I would have quit if it weren't for COVID because there was nothing else to do and I
Yeah.
just wanted to be in nature. So I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. And then the other part of that was part of the frustration about COVID for me was just the bureaucracy behind it because there was a long period of time where the beaches were totally closed. And then when they reopened them, they were like, okay, you have to be by yourself and you have to be 6 feet away from the next person.
Yeah.
So you would go to the beach and it's like, and everyone would abide by the rules on the sand. So you have everybody spread out, then you look in the water and it was like a huge party. So it was like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Yeah. That's wild. I just would have thought that would they wouldn't restrict that. That would be something that they would go ahead and open up, but that's just
But
yeah.
in all fairness, they didn't restrict the ocean because they can't, because it's not
Right.
under state jurisdiction.
Yeah.
They probably would have if they could.
Yeah, if they could, yeah, they would have. So let's get into your life as an interglow coach, a speaker, and a writer. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at a school. It's career day. And one of the
Yeah.
kids in the back of the room is like, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer him?
Oh, that's a good question because I would have to use different language for a 12-year
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
I would probably say like, that fear you have when you have to speak in front of the class or do something where you're in the spotlight, like I help you overcome that fear and be confident to do anything that you want.
So what did you want to be when you were a kid? When you were 12, what was your dream job?
I actually wanted to be a teacher or a
Okay.
writer.
Okay. So you're doing exactly what you wanted to do.
Yeah, isn't it funny how life works out that
Uh-huh.
way?
It's full circle. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird because I turned 50 a few years ago, 3 years ago, and I went to an amusement park in down south here in the Ozarks, and my stepdaughter, we were waiting at a ride of all thing called the time machine, the time traveler. There's all these clocks around me, and she's like, "What have you learned after, half century on this planet?" And I said that everything's full circle. Every single thing that you do in life, whether it's your early career aspirations, relationships that weren't quite resolved, things that you thought you wanted to do but didn't do. There's all of these things, and one way or another, if you're on this rock long enough, you're going to come back around to it. And you're either going to have to confront it or do it one way or another, you know? So
Yeah.
it's funny how that works. So where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Okay, so you're Midwest through and through.
Yeah. And then I
Um,
lived in Chicago for a very long time, but I'm very, very Midwest. I've only lived here for 8 years.
so do you remember that show, The Middle?
No.
Okay, it was did you watch Scrubs?
Yes.
Okay, the janitor dude, he he
Okay.
he was the dad in the show and it was in Indiana, but I always forget what city it was in.
Oh,
And it had the wife from Everyone Loves
yeah.
Raymond.
I never watched that show, but
Okay.
I know what you're talking about. It's funny, like you say the janitor from Scrubs, and I was like, oh yeah.
Which they're releasing that show again. All of them are coming back.
Oh, I would love
Oh,
that.
are you kidding? It's going to be awesome. It's going to be totally awesome. So anyway, let me ask you this. What ultimately, because by the time we're 3 years old, a lot of our personality traits, a lot of who we are is a part of our fabric. What was it about growing up that gave you this idea to write and to be a coach now and to teach and to do all of these things? What happened?
Well, when I was a little girl, I was very creative and imaginative. And on the theme of things coming full circle, I had a Hawaii Barbie doll and she had hair down to her butt. And I found that so fascinating. So, from a very early age, I became very fascinated with Hawaii and had
Wow.
always wanted to live here. I also had a Barbie Ferrari convertible and it was bright red. So I always wanted a bright red convertible. And I loved singing, I loved dancing, I loved writing. I used to be, I just loved writing. And even in the fifth grade, the entire school, like everyone had to write a book or a short book. And I won this contest out of the entire school. That's how like into writing I was. And after my dad passed away and my mom and I were cleaning out his house, which was the house I grew up in, I found a bunch of the books that I had written when I was little, and from an adult perspective, they were actually very clean in terms of like the structure of the
Yeah.
story and like the plots were very imaginative and creative. And it was interesting to me because nobody ever really encouraged me to keep writing. And I'm like, why not? Like I was
Yeah.
at start like I'm gonna toot my own horn. Like I feel like I was a really good writer.
Yeah.
But I grew up in a family, the way I describe it, it felt more like a business than a family. And the best way to describe it was both of my parents were extremely emotionally unavailable. And also, my mom was very critical. So, as I went through life, I just learned to water down who I was. Like I was like this playful, fun little girl, but it was just like, oh, I'm just gonna play the role so I don't get criticized. And then that just bled into other areas of my life. Cause like, and especially like school systems and society systems, it's like you do this, you do that, and you just kind of blindly follow these arbitrary rules. So I just became this person, like I'm just gonna do what I'm told and
Yeah.
never really shine my light. So my light got very dimmed for a very long time. And I actually didn't come out of that period until my emotional breakdown during COVID. And that's when I finally got help and started healing. And I just started to become more of who I was. And I realized that I had spent my whole life conforming to these arbitrary rules of society. And I was like miserable and exhausted. And it's like, no wonder I was so depressed and anxious.
Yeah. So you have this dream when you're a kid of moving to Hawaii and
Yeah.
and loving that Barbie doll. So when you finally arrived, how long did it take for you to absorb the fact that this is the place that I'm going to call home?
It happened pretty much immediately
Okay.
because at the time that I moved, like I consider myself courageous and adventurous now, but at the time it was a really bold move for me and
Yeah.
it took me like all year to do it and I was so scared. And then I arrived here and I could just like feel in my soul that this is where I was meant to be and that I was on my path. So I was like, what am I so afraid of?
Yeah. So I can't imagine what it's like to see that every day. Do you just catch yourself all day long going, my God, this is crazy. Especially coming from Indiana. I mean, it's like Kansas
Yeah.
City. Like when I go to a place that has the ocean and all that, I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? You
Yeah,
know?
that was actually a fear because I was like, what if I start taking this for granted? And
Right.
I do think I do sometimes because especially like living in Chicago for so long, I think I take the weather here for granted a
Yeah.
lot. But because I surf and I'm in the ocean a lot, like I love the ocean. I like the novelty of seeing rainbows almost every day has not worn off.
Oh.
So every day I do like have this overwhelming gratitude for the things I'm able to see and experience here.
So, what were the books early on? Since you wanted to be a writer, who were authors or books that really made an influence on you early on?
There was this author, her name was Willow Davis Roberts.
Okay.
So this would have been, I guess it still would have been the 80s. Like she was kind of quirky. Like she wrote this book. It was called The Girl with the Silver Eyes, and it was about how there was these parents who worked in a factory and like something was contaminated, so like all of their kids had these magical powers. And so the book was focused on the girl who had them. Basically, she could move things with her eyes. Um, and I also liked I loved Nancy Drew because I
Yeah.
loved like mysteries and trying to figure it out before the book ended. So those were my
Yeah.
favorites that I can remember, and I don't even remember who wrote the original Nancy Drew.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah. No, I know what you're talking about, that
And
vibe.
that's horrible because I loved those books, but
Right.
I don't remember the author.
Yeah, there's a lot in life that gets jammed into our Rolodex.
Yeah.
So, who's been your hero? Who's been an inspirational force that's allowed you to travel to this point geographically and emotionally and professionally to find your place?
Um, I've had lots of mentors, but I know this sounds weird. I would say my hero is myself
Yeah,
because I came from this place, like I had at one most of my life, I had zero self-worth. I didn't have the courage to do new things. I didn't have the courage to get out of my comfort zone. But to really be able to pull myself out of that and take accountability for that I'm the one who is in charge of doing that because I also had a victim mentality for
yeah.
a lot of my life. Like these things are happening to me and I'm powerless against them. And then I finally had that mindset shift of I have a way more accountability of my life than I'm giving myself credit for, and I want to make some changes, so I'm going to do it.
So, for anyone out there that is curious what an inner glow coach is, what's kind of a target audience? What's a person that might be seeking something more, something, some level of depth in coaching? Who would be an ideal demographic or group that should approach you and delve into this further?
The primary cohort of women that I work with are women who are chasing love and approval outside of themselves.
Yeah,
The more common term for this is people pleasers. I don't always like to use that because it shows up in different ways, because it could also be like perfectionism, but basically anything where you're putting your worth and things outside of yourself. And I help them find that love and approval within themselves, because when you get to that place, you do not care what's going on around you because you're
yeah,
so concerned about, am I living in integrity? Am I happy with myself? Am I being the best version of myself that I could be at any given time? When
yeah.
you're focused on those things, you just don't even care. And it's such a freeing feeling.
So when you get in the profession of dealing with people, you obviously have to get involved with some of the things that a lot of things that they're dealing with, and it can get
Yeah.
mucky and weird and dark. So how do you protect yourself from getting too mired in that and still keep your eye on changing them and helping them, then taking care of your own soul? So when that alarm clock goes off in the morning, what's this collective energy that makes you be who you are?
That's a really good question because I'm an empath. So yeah, sometimes people tell
Huh?
me things and it's like, whoa, this is
Huh?
heavy. But I have a practice, I almost said daily practice, but I would even go as far as to say it's a minute by minute practice of treating my nervous system like a baby, because like I can feel when I'm starting to like get pulled into their emotions. So I have to always be consciously aware. And again, that's giving your energy away, right? Because I'm letting them suck me into it. So I'm always very consciously aware of where my energy is going. And in a situation where I'm on a client call, I don't always have the opportunity to be like, okay, I need to take a deep breath or whatever. But I do have that opportunity to do that after the call. But so my overall point is awareness is key because you can feel it in your body when you're getting pulled out of your own personal energy. So it's just having that practice of awareness and then recalibrating as needed.
So if you could meet one person on the planet that you find inspirational that might help you on your journey, you could have a lunch, you could talk to them, you could hang out with them a little bit. Is there
Mm.
anybody on the planet you would love to meet and talk to?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Actually, this might sound like weird, but I would love to meet someone like Michael Jordan or someone who's just been like has so many achievements and the reason I would want to like have a conversation with him is because I used to be an overachiever,
Hmm.
and to me it was so stressful and anxious because in most cases, it's like I had a personal standard for myself that I was trying to meet. But then in some cases, in addition to that, there's this external standard. Like this happens a lot in school, but it could be like work or another situation where you also have this external standard. And I found that so stressful and anxiety inducing. And I've always been curious, like these high performing athletes or, people who are just like way above anyone else in their field, like, do they not feel that same pressure and anxiety, or are
Yeah.
they somehow like dealing with it or pushing through it,
Yeah.
especially at that level?
Yeah. I remember, have you watched The Last Dance, that documentary on him?
Yeah.
It's wild because it's like all of that competition bled into every part of his life. Like when he was
Yes.
shooting craps with the security guy, it's like he couldn't stop himself. Like
Because
it's
he was so competitive. But
yeah.
yeah, that seems stressful to me because
Yeah,
that's how I
totally.
used to be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I found that I hit that wall with me. I used to play video games as a kid all the time, and I just
Yeah.
don't do it now as an adult. And now's the time to do it. Now, like I was in the 80s when it was all like 8-bit silly stuff. Like
Yeah.
now is the time that I could really be flying, and I hit a wall, and I think when I was in high school, I played The Legend of Zelda and all these games, and I got so into it. I think I completely emotionally imploded, and I just can't do it anymore. It's that
Yeah.
level. It's too much. It's like there's a
That
part almost like when people can't control drinking or whatever they're doing. It's like they're not going to have one drink at the end of the day. They're going to party and drink until they're blacked
yeah.
out, right? So it's just that thing you got to figure out. Like with Jordan, like and with other people, like do they just mask that really well? I don't know.
Yeah, and also to your point, because everyone had, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people have addictions or things to like numb their feelings. And there are socially unacceptable ways
Yep.
like drugs, cigarettes, even like video games can be taken to an extreme.
Yep.
But there's socially acceptable ways. Like, so for example, I used to like run marathons and over exercise to the extreme, but it was socially acceptable. So is overworking, and so is someone like Michael Jordan, who's like dominating his sport, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean it's healthy.
Yeah.
So I'm so fascinated by that.
Yeah. Do you remember years ago there was a false missile alert that was sent that was coming towards Hawaii?
Yeah, that was the year before I moved here.
Okay, so you do you know the story about Jim Carrey when that happened?
Uh-uh.
Oh, you got to Google it. You got to look it up. He
Okay.
was literally on a mountaintop and he's talked about this in an interview. He was like recollecting his life in 60 seconds. He just sat there and he talks about it. And he was like, "All right, this is it." He was, I don't know where you, and they don't reference where he was at, but he was literally in Hawaii and he was like, "All right, this is it. I'm going to go through my life." And it might have been because, he kind of went around a corner in
Yeah.
his life. It was around that time, I think. But
And I liked that turn of events for him,
yeah, I do
but
too.
then along with that, he also like dropped off social media and stuff
Uh-huh.
because for a while he was posting his like insights and stuff, and I was like, "Oh, this is really cool.
Oh,
I like
yeah.
this version of him." But then he dropped off. So,
And he's a
but,
painter and he's got a big studio and
oh, really?
oh yeah, he used to put out, that was what I used to follow on Instagram. He'd have paintings every day and he really did it when there was a lot of this. I mean, there was a lot of political charges that are in the air now, but this was like I think during the first Trump presidency, he was just going after it and he was putting paintings of, but yeah, you should look that up. He's
I will.
he's a very multifaceted guy. So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight and ran into the 18-year-old version of you and you walked up to that young version and had a big book and you gave it to her and said, "This is how your life has turned out so far," would that version of you believe it?
Oh, probably not. Because I actually do have a book about my life, so I could just hand her that.
Yeah.
It would probably no, she wouldn't
No.
believe it.
Would you give her advice?
No, I get this question a lot, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier. Because and we're like similar generation, in Back to the Future, like any little
Uh-huh.
thing you do when you go back to the past, like it can have like exponential effects on the future.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would tell her anything because I wouldn't want to like give her a cautionary tale or forewarning because I wouldn't want to change anything because again, I think I had to go through what I went through, but I would give her a hug.
Yeah, that exactly. Yeah, that tear in time, that Biff thing always will hex our 80s brain. It's like, I'm
Yeah,
not,
because
right?
the sports almanac, like
Oh,
he
yeah.
totally ruined everything.
Everything went downhill. It turned into what we're living in right now.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's what happened
Yeah,
with after during COVID.
yeah, something may have happened when Trump and Macaulay Culkin ran into each other in that lobby. So, yeah, we probably don't want to do that. So, let me ask you this. Of everything that you've done, everything you've evolved to at this point in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Mm. I'm actually proudest of because I did have a corporate America job and like through my personal healing, I was like, this is not aligned with who I am. And I had the realization that I had just been living life conforming to all these like arbitrary rules of society. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to do this anymore. So I quit my corporate job cold turkey and went all in on my business. And it was
Yeah.
so terrifying, but it was so rewarding.
So everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Um, I feel like I'm fumbling through life and like don't know what I'm doing and figuring things out as I go. But people look at me and they think I have it all together. This is what I get a lot. People think because I live in Hawaii that my life is perfect.
Right.
And I will be the first person to tell anyone where you live doesn't dictate if your life is perfect or not. It's all within you.
100%. So well said. That's wisdom that you don't figure out until you're on this planet long enough.
Yeah.
All right, so let's heal this 80s part of our movie culture. If you could go back in time and see one event with your own eyes happen, and it won't create a tear in
Mm.
time, you literally get to witness it. You're not a factor, but you get to see it go down in front of you. What one event in human history would you love to have seen unfold before your eyes?
That's so interesting.
There's so much,
This I
so
know this
much.
is such a good question. I'm trying to go way back
Yeah,
because when you're a child, like you just have a totally different perspective. You don't have the tools and knowledge to perceive things. Like what happened in the 80s? Honestly, I don't even know if it'd be like a world event. I think it would just be more like observing the adults around me because it's like you have this perception that kind of going back to what I just said,
yeah.
like you feel like adults have it all figured out and they
Huh?
know what they're doing and have it all together. But I would love to observe the adults around me as a child from an adult's point of view.
Yeah, that's so, so deep. I would too. Like when my dad had friends over and they put a bottle of J&B Scotch in the middle of the table and everything eventually got louder and louder as they drank more and talked about their lives. That would be totally fascinating,
Yeah.
you know, just to see what would transpire. We have this place that opened in Kansas City called Atlas 9, and it's this almost like this weird scavenger hunt museum of all of this 80s and 90s stuff. You walk in and it's a movie theater and you have a little badge and you scan it and you go to all these different like room it anyway, it just type in Atlas 9. There's only one in
Yeah.
the world and I can't
Okay.
believe it's in Kansas City, but it's one of the coolest
That sounds
things.
amazing.
Oh my God. And it like makes you into a movie poster and you're like, yeah, it's like it's this there's like a live jazz club in there. There's this hip dude in front of like six microphones with the trumpet. It's like the whole thing's interactive. It's one of the coolest, weirdest, most mind-blowing, like coming from the 80s things I've ever seen in my life. Like it really made me feel like I was pulling up in the drive-through at Burger King to get the set of cups. Like it was like, oh my God, I'm
Oh
back.
my God, those were
It's,
the days.
oh
Yeah.
my God, I
That was
miss it.
another thing when my mom and I were cleaning out my dad's house. We found, remember Pizza Hut had the
Oh
cups,
my, yeah.
McDonald's.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we found all of those.
That's so cool. So nostalgic. So if anybody wants to reach out, they have questions, they want to hire you, books, any of the good business, where do they go?
The best place to find me is my website, which is runninginslippers.com, which is also the name of my book. So there's information about my book. It's available on paperback, Kindle, and audiobook. And I do narrate the audiobook because I know
Cool.
that's important to people.
Yeah.
And there's also information on my coaching program. My current coaching program is called Shine from the Inside. And it helps women stop chasing love and approval and start radiating it from within.
Excellent. Well, I can't escape the idea that your last name Hawkins is a part of the Stranger Things thing. So you're
I've
woven in.
still never seen that either.
Yeah, it's a trip. I mean, just from a nostalgic kind of a thing, it's a really fun, like, I mean, that's the thing about this Gen X thing is that we're the ones that have become the baby boomers. We're being catered to because we have the resources and the
Yeah.
moolah and the influence. So it's weird to be that like prized kind of nostalgic thing now. But anyway, I will put all these links in the show notes. This has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for taking a minute out, and best of luck. Happy 2026.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet.